Hey guys, I'm Meredith Holly. I'm a lawyer and certified life coach and best-selling author. I help women stop sexual harassment without quitting their jobs, and one of the ways I do that is by working with companies on to create healthy workplace cultures. Hi, Teresa. Let me know if you can hear me. Just say hi in the chat. So what I want to talk to you about today is the gender pay gap and how your business's pay structure might be contributing to the gender pay gap and to sexism without you even knowing it. And so the like there I will hear some dispute sometimes about whether the pay gap is real and whether women are voluntarily leaving jobs to go have children or take care of children, and whether that's the main cause of it. But the research is pretty clear that the pay gap exists. It compares wages of women and men in the same position, and it shows that one major factor in it is women not getting promotions. And also another factor in it is pay transparency. So often they do these studies where men and women will apply and be interviewed for the same position, and you'll see what a man asks for as his starting salary versus what a woman asks for as her starting salary, and they tend to be different. And often what they've shown is that that is because women are underestimating what other people are being paid because they don't know about it. So one thing to know about this is that many states are making it illegal to prohibit employees from talking about salary. So for example, in Oregon, you can't retaliate against an employee for talking about their salary. And this is sort of making employers aren't even realizing it, but it's subjecting them to a pay transparency system that they're not prepared for, that they haven't really planned for. And so it's really important to get ahead of this as it becomes more and more and more common for states to make pay transparency the law. So you want to get ahead to make sure that your pay is actually fair and actually equal. Most employers don't want to have unfair pay be their standard. Most employees don't want to be paid unfairly, whether they're being paid unfairly too much or too little. Most employees want their pay to be rational and to be related to the work that they do. Obviously, they don't want to be paid less, but they still want it to be a recognition of the work that they're doing. So the gender pay gap is way worse when it comes to women of color. So white women make about 80 cents on the dollar for every white man. Black women make about 67 cents on the dollar. And the study I just read said that Hispanic women make about 64 cents on the dollar, but I've also seen a statistic that said 54 cents. So it is much more difficult for women of color to get paid fairly. And it is worse for different race groups based on our stereotypes around them. So the number one, I'm going to talk about this on the employee side and what I've seen on the employee side, and I'm going to talk about it for employers also, and how both employees and employers can work together to solve this, and kind of how I work with those groups. For employees, the number one problem I see employees run into when they are asking for fair salaries is that they think it's important for their boss to like them, and that is an important factor in getting a fair salary. So I had this experience when I was working at a law firm where a friend called me and said, you know, I'm trying to get people together and find out what is a fair salary for our positions, because there's a lot of silence in the law around what a fair salary is. So she worked at a different firm, and she called around to different associates, and I found out during that time that I was one of the highest paid associate attorneys in our little group of, there weren't that many of us, but that I was being paid higher. And this was not because my bosses were happy about it or because they liked me, but because I had done a lot of advocacy around it and intentionally said, you need to pay me what I deserve to be paid. The first year that I had started in this position, one of my boss, they had negotiated that I would get paid a low base salary and that my bonus would make up for that salary. So when that did not happen, that there was not a transparent process around the bonus, and it did not make up for the salary in comparison to my peers. What I did was I went around and I asked all of my peers what they made as their salary. And so I found out what a fair salary was in my area, and I negotiated based on that fair salary. That year I negotiated about an $18,000 increase in my salary based on the research that I had done, not based on my bosses liking me. And so, I continued to do that research throughout my time and researching what was fair. And I was willing to let my bosses be uncomfortable around what they were paying me, which led to increased salary. It wasn't easy. But and I'll tell you a different story. So I've worked with clients on this. For example, I worked with a client working for an institution, and what he had been doing, this was a man I was working with, and he had been really devoted to the idea that if he worked hard enough, his bosses would recognize his work and he would get paid a fair salary. And he brought up the issue in a really polite way to them, and brought it up, and he never was given the promotion he deserved or the fair salary he deserved. And so we started working together on really being clear about why he deserved what he deserved, that his actual salary was discriminatory, and honest about it. And he pretty soon got the raise that he asked for. We ended up also negotiating a severance for him, though, at the time, because even though once we raised these issues and once we were really direct about what was going on, he got the salary increase that he deserved. He also was so disillusioned by the process that even though he was a great employee, his employers loved him, it had been such a bad experience for him that he didn't even want to stay with the employer. He felt it was so unfair. I talked to a woman recently who discovered through like a sheet that someone laid out on their desk. She came across the sheet and it showed all the salaries for people in her position. She was the only woman in her department. She had 15 years more experience than the men in her department, and she was making $10,000 a year less than them. She had been afraid to ask for a raise, afraid to raise issues. And so what we talked about was that she had made hundreds of thousands of dollars of an investment in being afraid instead of confronting the issues that she was seeing in her workplace. And so I'm not saying don't be a good person, or that being a good person or being likable or any of the interpersonal skills that we have don't contribute to a raise or to our abilities in a workplace. I think that they do contribute, but they are separate contributions than the financial component of what people deserve as a raise. So you should be a good person in your workplace. You should develop interpersonal skills, learn how to manage your emotions, learn how to interact with people, be successful at that, just because it makes you a more successful person, not because it's going to get you a raise. So what I see a lot of times happen is that employees want their employers to like them, want to get a raise so bad that they end up coming off almost creepy to their bosses, right? They're like, please, 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 please like me, please. And you know, when someone is like chasing you like that, it's never fun. Like, you don't like a person who really wants you to like them. It's just like almost how we all work. And so what I think is the way to look at it is be a kind, respectful person because that's who you want to be, not because you want to get something from it. Then it's a separate thing to understand the value of your position. What do you offer to the company? What kind of money do you bring into the company? How do you contribute to the success of the business that you work for? Why is your position important to the business? What does that mean for money? And also, what are your alternatives? So this is when we look at comparable salaries, because a comparable salary in the same position is your alternative. So if you're on the employee side, you want to look at who are the competitors? What could you go to that's your best alternative to this salary? And how do you use that to negotiate with your employer in just a transparent way that you may want to leave for something better? And just because it's something better, not out of like emotional manipulation or trying to get them to like you or playing favorites or something like that. On the employer side, that if you are employing employees and you don't want them to leave, what you want to do is start working towards actual transparency in your pay system, in your merit system, so that you understand why certain employees are being paid more than other employees based on merit, based on seniority, based on experience, some rational relationship. And if the other employees came to you and said, we don't think this is fair, you would be willing to listen to them and understand why you think it's fair. A lot of this is easier said than done, and a lot of us have a lot of feelings about money, about what money means for our worth, what money means for our relationships with the people that we work with. And so I've seen for employers, them have a lot of fear around creating a transparent system. And the thing I would say to that is that because the laws are changing, because transparency is becoming the law more and more often, it is better to be fair and transparent than to know that there's unfairness in your pay system and try to cover it up by requiring employees not to talk to each other, right? That puts all the defensiveness, all the burden on you as the employer, you as the manager. If you're trying to hide a pay system, then that's the burden of the fairness on you. What feels better is allowing the employees to advocate for a fair system in the way that they see the fairness happen. There are tons of ways to do this. And I think that employees and employers can work together to create this kind of transparent, fair system. But the hardest part that I've seen really in how to work with it is managing your feelings, managing the employees' feelings during the fairness process, while you start to create something more fair, while you look at the research around what the value is of a position, what comparable salaries are, how you're going to retain employees, and also make sure that it serves your business and your structure. So this is the kind of thing that I talk about in my book, Healthy Workplace Culture. And I'm going to drop a little link below where you can download it for free if you'd like that. You just go to healthyworkplaceculture.com. If you have any questions, or if you have a particular situation in your business where you feel like things are unfair, whether you're an employee or an employer, I'd love to hear about what's going on with you. Feel free to send me a message. But in the meantime, download and read the book. Thank you.